I would like to thanks to the tech channel startup who has invited us to this show, and so may we can elaborate our product functionalities with respect to the multi-factor authentications. There were used to be two-factor authentication earlier. Now to ensure highly competitive environment, so may to avoid threats and all. So we recommend a multi-factor authentication. We do have our in-house portfolio suite, e-suite, that and the product as known to be as eMash. So what we are going to explain is like digital channels are becoming the go-to places where consumers interact with businesses and each other to accommodate their customers and better manage their organization in a digital world. Businesses have become incredibly independent on a web of systems, both on and off their networks, to manage, store, and transmit diverse information such as financial accounts, personally identifiable information, intellectual property, transaction records, etc. Authentication is central to the ability of these businesses to effectively secure access to consumer facing digital channels and the systems that underpin their operations. What we have done a study in the past decade that examines how businesses are implementing authentication, their motivations for choosing authentication technologies and approaches, and how the evolving threat environment has given rise to new, more effective means of authenticating customers and employees in today's digital world. For additional context, I would like to explain further more, and I would like to take this discussion deep dive as the findings from RN, whereby strong authentication is evolving these days. Strong authentication has traditionally been synonymous with multi-factor authentication. Unfortunately, passwords are not only inherently broken but also ubiquitous. So, practically any current application of multi factor authentication is being undermined by their inclusion. A superior approach, what it says, is high assurance strong authentication merges multi factor authentication with strong cryptography. In this model, in which two or more factors are in use, at least one leverages public key infrastructure, that's PKI, though through a protocol such as FIDO, though we are a part of the FIDO alliance, to prevent replay attacks. Traditional strong authentication is broadly available for customers, but adoption lags in the enterprise. Industry initiatives and regulations have resulted in broad availability of traditional strong authentication both for consumers and within the enterprise. 50% of businesses offer at least two factors when authenticating their customers, though within the enterprise only 35% of business use two or more factor to secure access to their data and systems. A lack of high assurance strong authentication is leaving business exposed. High assurance strong authentication is rare. Only 5% of business offer the capability to customers or leverage it within the enterprise. This represents a clear area of opportunity for criminals or other threat actors who are increasingly able to circumvent different authentication solutions regardless of how many they may encounter during a single session. Mobile devices, tremendously, are a clear driver of traditional strong authentication, facilitating both position based authentications like device fingerprinting, SMS based OTPs, and inherence based devices such as biometric, fingerprint scanning, and voice recognition. Mobile devices have increased the opportunity for businesses to leverage more than just passwords to authenticate their customers and employees. Knowledge and possession factor solutions are the most common combination in a multi-factor scheme. Passwords are supported by all businesses that provide access to customer accounts, and along with other knowledge factor solutions are the most popular for customer authentication. This is followed by those are predictive on possession, say for example security keys, hardware tokens, hardware OTP tokens, and solution based on hands like biometrics are in a distant third place. Accuracy and customer loyalty are the key. To win support of business, authentication solution must prove their effectiveness in both keeping bad actors out and ensuring a positive security perception for good ones. It is notable that while customers loyalty tops the list, low customer friction falls to the bottom, indicating that many businesses see friction as not only unavoidable but perhaps only beneficial in persuading customer that the site is secure. So where we recommend is make high assurance strong authentication broadly available to reduce the risk of password breaches. High profile data breaches continue to occur, compromising massive list of passwords that criminals subsequently use to gain access to business in all industries. Making additional factors of authentication available and ensuring that at least one leverages PKI, that public key infrastructure, prevents criminals or threats from easily being able to use compromised credentials. Tout availability of high assurance strong authentication to raise trust and deter criminals threats. Besides improving actual security, making customers aware that a business supports high assurance strong authentication can also bolster the public preparation of that business security. In addition, threats may have less incentive to attempt to compromise and credentials belonging to the customers of a certain business if they know the credentials cannot be reused without a secure additional authentication factor. Now, bolster authentication after breach, supplementing and possibly replacing knowledge factor solutions. Compromise information, if even if something other than traditional login credentials has been used with great effect by criminals. In the event of a breach, businesses would do well to layer additional high assurance authentication solutions simultaneously with their remediation plan. Balance customer experience and security by ascertaining the risk of transaction before deploying customer facing authentication methods. Risk based method authentication allows business to optimize their use of authentication methods that could introduce additional friction into a customer interaction by limiting their use to only those situations that presents a higher likelihood that an unauthorized user has initiated the transaction. Now, what need to do to reduce the risk that an individual channel may be compromised? Use multiple channels or out of band authentication to further reduce customer authentication risk during login with strong authentication or during step up. Out of band authentication, a practice promoted by the financial industry regulators, further raises the bar for criminals or threats by forcing them to gain control of multiple access channels and ostensibly different types of devices simultaneously. So what I recommend is use high assurance strong authentication where it counts within the enterprise. Certain systems are higher profile targets for threats than others. This includes anything internet facing and internal systems that could present attractive target for insider threats. So at the last, I would like to conclude it as no single authentication solution is bulletproof. So that's what I recommend, the multi-factor authentication. Stay tuned with us. Stay tuned with the Tech Insider show as well. They'll be coming up with soon with another video sets of what all portfolio can be catered in terms of digital signatures, PKI, big data analytics. So thanks a lot. Take care.